Welcome back to Times Now Live, and we have a very important exclusive piece of breaking news coming to you, particularly over the fallout of the Taliban takeover of Afghanistan after the 31st of August this year, when the last set of American troops in fact left Afghan soil. Now, India was always worried about the possible implications of this particular development, and the worst fears are now coming true, with as many as 12 to 13 Afghan terrorists who are part of the Al-Badr group having made their way, as per intelligence inputs, as far as Pakistan-occupied Kashmir and waiting now to infiltrate into Indian territory. As many as 200 gunmen of the Al-Badr, who were in fact known to have aided and abetted the Taliban terrorists to in fact take on the Afghan forces in Afghanistan, are now making their way towards PoK, waiting to eventually infiltrate into Indian territory. This is an exclusive piece of breaking news that Srinjoy Chaudhary has brought to us. Let me go across immediately to him for all the details with regards to this extremely concerning development right on India's borders. Srinjoy, good morning. What have you managed to access in terms of intelligence inputs that point towards the presence of Afghan fighters among as many as 200 Al-Badr terrorists who are waiting to infiltrate into Indian territory from PoK?
Yes, what we do know is that over these last few months, the ISI has been pushing and propping up Al-Badr. Now we know that there were 200 Al-Badr terrorists who were in Afghanistan and who have moved to two terror training camps fairly close to the line of control in PoK. Now the important point is, along with them have come about 10 or 12 Afghan fighters. So that's a lot of people. And what we are hearing is that they have been doing recce's. They are there to try and infiltrate into India, into Jammu and Kashmir, and other parts of India over the next few weeks and months. That is the information we have. What we also know is that their specific orders have been given to all the other terror groups working in Jammu and Kashmir, like, for instance, the Lashkar-e-Toiba, the Jaish-e-Mohammed, and so on, Hizbul Mujahideen. They have been told to target civilians, and not just any civilians, but the following: Kashmiri Pandits, most certainly, also people who are working who have come from other states to work in Jammu and Kashmir, also, and others like teachers and people like that. There is a specific order to target civilians who are considered soft targets, and also target those among civilians like teachers, like other officials, like informers, so-called informers for the army and the other security forces, and also specifically people from other states who have come to work in Jammu and Kashmir. They may be carpenters, they may be workmen, they may be laborers. They are to be targeted. That is the clear message that has gone through to the terror groups, is what we are hearing.
Right, Srinjoy. In fact, those spate of targeted killings has already begun in Jammu and Kashmir, with religious minorities in Jammu and Kashmir as well as security forces being targeted by terrorists. Let me also go across to Pradeep Datta. Pradeep, it was on the 31st of August that the last set of American troops left Afghanistan, and very soon after that we saw the ISI play a direct role in government formation in Afghanistan, bringing together both the Taliban as well as the Haqqani network, and it's just barely taken them a few months to put their action or put their plans into motion, particularly with regards to India. And now we have as many as 14 to 15 Afghan terrorists along with the rest of the cadre of the Al-Badr waiting to cross over into India from PoK.
Yes, Siddharth, you are absolutely right. For quite some time, there had been ominous warning signs that once inter-service intelligence will be able to consolidate their foothold in Afghanistan through Taliban, they will try to divert these Afghan fighters to India, especially Jammu and Kashmir, and that worst fear is coming true. As Rinja was saying, that 200 of them, which are part of Al-Badr outfit, they have started moving towards Kotli and Nikyal area along the line of control and waiting for a moment to sneak into this side of the border. And they are this time giving them a new label, that's Al-Badr, because Pakistan is very good in giving new labels, manufacturing brands, terror brands, and then trying to push into other side of the border, because they will not allow that Taliban name to be given to them, because they want to befool international community by saying that this is an indigenous movement. That is what they've been doing for the last several decades. And the second thing is that this is a two-pronged strategy of Pakistan. Why I'm saying a two-pronged strategy? On one hand, they are trying to escalate situation along the line of control, because they are planning to carry out a bat attack, target some of those border outposts, and also patrolling party along line of control, so that they can demoralize forces and push in more and more terrorists. And the second is they are trying to target hinterland, as Rinjo was saying, because already there are outfits like old hands like Lashkar-e-Toiba, Jaish-e-Mohammed and Hizbul Mujahideen. They have been assigned the task to target innocent unarmed civilians. That means they have been asked to target Hindus and Hindustanis. When I say Hindustanis, that means anybody who stands with the idea of India, whether it's a Kashmiri Muslim, whether it's a Kashmiri Hindu, whether it's anybody else who is there for India. And the second is that they are trying to target the minority community members, so that they can generate fear psychosis among them and create a situation that used to persist in early 90s, when more than 4.5 lakh Kashmiri Hindus had to abandon their and home and flee to safer places away from Kashmir Valley. So they do not want that rehabilitation process to start. They want that process to be destabilized. Already we have seen that there had been warning signs, when I say, because a few weeks back we saw that Al-Qaeda magazine that was earlier called Nawai Afghan War, but now that name has been changed to Nawai Ghazwa Hind. So this is basically Ghazwatul Hind, that template that they are trying to replicate. That means they are trying to target Hindustan. That has been the bigger plan of inter-service intelligence. So we should not mistake it by saying that it's a normal kind of an infiltration, because we knew that thing happened in from 1996 2001 also, when there was first time we saw the Taliban regime. That time also they tried to divert those Taliban fighters towards Jammu and Kashmir. And this time again the similar strategy had been adopted, because we know large quantities of arms and ammunition has been left by those United States forces, and that will also be sent over to this side, because they can't see peace, normalcy, development and democracy in Jammu and Kashmir. So they will try to stabilize the situation. So this is a sinister plot of Pakistan, and already that has been set into motion by pushing in 200 Al-Badr fighters close to the line of control, especially in Nikyal area, opposite Poonch sector, and also in Kotli area. That's again opposite Poonch and Bimbargali sector.
That's right, Pradeep. In fact, let me also go across to Ishan Wani. Ishan, this is an extremely worrying development, because that spate of targeted killings has already begun, and we are witnessing what seems to be like a rerun of what happened in 1989 as well as 1996, when foreign fighters from Afghanistan ended up ingratiating themselves within the ranks of not just Kashmiri outfits, even PoK-backed outfits that were targeting civilians as well as security forces in Jammu and Kashmir, to only give the insurgency in Jammu and Kashmir a more global dimension. And that's exactly what's happening now.
If you talk about back in 90s, there were several Afghan fighters who had come actually Kashmir and were working under different outfits and attacking security forces in the Kashmir Valley. And then the number reduced, and we saw that how situation slowly security forces were able to control. But ever since then, security forces have been maintaining that there has been no person who has come there from Afghanistan to Kashmir Valley. But there were apprehensions ever since there was a fallout of Afghanistan to Taliban. And since then, security forces though have been saying that people should not be worried. There should be no worry. But at the same time, these discussions were part of the entire security synergy that the security forces are trying to prepare themselves. We few days back saw there was a winter preparedness meeting held with the Army 15 Corps commander and the IGP of Jammu and Kashmir Police and other police officers from the North Kashmir, which borders with Pakistan. So that important meeting was also held at this particular crucial time. Now, if we talk about Al-Badr, it hasn't been so greatly instrumental on the ground at the Kashmir Valley. And last year, Dilbag Singh, who is a DGP of Jammu and Kashmir Police, said that there are chances that there might be a revival of Al-Badr, and attempts are being made to revive it so that it could once again be part of the entire groups there who are operating in the Kashmir Valley. We saw that TRF taking a new form, a new shape, which police says is part of Lashkar-e-Toiba, and then new names also floating. So there might be an attempt to revive Al-Badr. That is what Dilbag Singh said last year. But police and forces have been saying that there is no need to worry. But if you talk about the civilian killings that are taking place, and even the security sources telling us that yes, there is a fear that there might be a continuous these soft target killings which could happen. And a few days back we saw a traffic cop being attacked, which was later claimed by the Islamic State. But however, there are attempts being made to target soft targets, and there are specific inputs the security forces have that there might be attempts to target non-locals who are very soft targets in the Kashmir Valley.
Right, Ishan, let me also go across now to Srinjoy. Srinjoy, a two-part question. One, of course, is that this is a direct violation on the part of the Taliban regime as well over all the commitments made to the United Nations, in including the UN resolutions that India had passed together with several other countries a few months ago, warning the Taliban to not, in fact, associate themselves with any terror outfits or allow terror outfits to operate out of their soil. And secondly, how is the Indian defense establishment now reacting to this latest round of developments when we have Afghan fighters among other terror outfits and groups operating out of PoK just a few kilometers away from the line of control, waiting to infiltrate into our territory?
Yes, to answer your first question, the Indian government and the world, the UN Security Council, had feared that once the Taliban regime took over, there would be quote-unquote export of terrorism. That is something India was aware of, India has spoken of, and many, many countries in the world have spoken about. Now, this could be one of the first indicators of export of terrorism. Well, what really has happened is that the ISI has found that all these extra terrorists who were in Afghanistan, who had assisted the Taliban, have no use there. So it would be useful to move them to Jammu and Kashmir. That could be one possibility. The other point, to answer your question, well, a terrorist is a terrorist and he will be dealt with. Whether he is from Afghanistan, whether he is from PoK, whether he is from Pakistan, the same conditions apply. If you are a terrorist, you will be dealt with.
Pradeep, coming to you now, the Al-Badr is seeking to revive itself, and the ISI has been playing a very active hand in seeking to ensure that it has greater presence in PoK and eventually into India by way of infiltration. Now, when we saw that spate of targeted killings in Jammu and Kashmir, we saw a group claim responsibility. It was called the TRF, which many believe was an offshoot of the Lashkar-e-Toiba. And now we see the Al-Badr, of course, seeking to, in fact, expand its presence into India. So the ISI seems to have now worked out a way, and this is a tried and tested method of the change in nomenclatures, of seeking to, in fact, change names of terror outfits to conceal their actual identities as a means of getting around the scrutiny that they've been subjected to with regards to the FATF as well in the recent past.
Yes, Siddharth, you are absolutely right. In fact, Pakistan is master of changing labels, manufacturing identities and branding terror outfits so that they can convey the world. It is basically indigenous movement going on in Kashmir Valley, but world knows the TRF is a Lashkar-e-Toiba, and Lashkar-e-Toiba is sponsored and is based in Pakistan, and their master Hafiz Saeed is moving scot-free, including Zakiur Rahman Lakvi, who are the plotters of 26/11 attack. So far as the Al-Badr is concerned, Al-Badr used to be there in early 90s. Once again, they are trying to revive this outfit, and they contain mostly of the Afghan fighters, and they are trying to rehabilitate Afghan fighters. As Srinjoy was rightly saying, because you can't expect anything good from the terror regime that is right now existing in Afghanistan. So everybody knew that they are going to export these terrorists. Why they are trying to? Because they know nothing else other than terrorism these fighters can do. So they are trying to rehabilitate them by pushing it close to the line of control. That is the strategy of Pakistan Inter-Service Intelligence. And third is that what the Indians, so far as the Indian security forces are concerned, that we have already devised an action plan. That action plan is that they are trying to make counter-infiltration grid more robust, and they are trying to have a different kind of a counter-terror strategy, because they have to deal this time with a hybrid warfare. That is a hybrid warfare. One is on the social media, and And then we have got the...
interrupt you there. An extremely important piece of breaking news that has been brought to us by Srinjoy Chaudhary, and many thanks, Pradeep, as well, for your inputs. And Ishan, we'll slip into a short break right now. We'll come back with more on the other side. Stay tuned.